Going live. And there we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another live recording of the Polite Society podcast. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. As you can see, a great deal of my staff is here with me today. Rob Morris from the Slow Facts blog and Self-Defense Gun Stories. Charlie Cook of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, and the man with the most recognizable backside in Second Amendment media. I haven't used that one in a while. And Amanda Suffolk of Eye on the Target Radio. Sorry, Charlie, I got to give you a hard time when you're on the air, dude.
It's okay. It was a year ago when this happened. Thank you, Amanda.
I was the photographer of said backside. Just, I only took
Unfortunately,
the picture because it had Anthony Calandro's name on your backside. That's why I started.
Unfortunately, my backside is my good side.
Wow.
For those of you that haven't felt this love in a number of weeks, see what you've been missing.
I'm telling you.
I got to tell you, it seems like I get this everywhere I go with everybody. And anyway, that's okay. I don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah. As the tears begin to fall, yes.
It's job
okay, Charlie.
It's job security for my therapist.
Exactly. You'll be here all week?
All week. Don't forget to tip your bartenders and waitresses.
And your drivers when they get you lost. Charlie's in charge.
Yes.
So welcome to episode 623.
Yes. All right. I do believe on my end, I'm ready to, social media is hooked up, and before I actually push buttons and get us going on the recording of the official show, I want to remind everybody, you can comment on either the Facebook video or the YouTube video and get your comments on the air. We'll discuss them while we're live. Or if you have Twitter, you can tweet with the hashtag PS Podcast. And those get to us fastest and most reliably, and we'll get those up. Sometimes Facebook has a problem getting comments into my broadcast software, as happened with the bullet earlier today. But, and guaranteed, if you give Charlie a hard time, it's guaranteed your comment will make it on the air.
We go.
These are my friends.
Yep.
Yeah. Petrolino, are you listening?
I'm so envious, Charlie, that you have friends.
I know, it's shocking.
No, I'm just straight up envy.
All right. On my end, I'm ready to go. Any objections to us starting? Oh, I should probably take the countdown timer down. All right. I think we're going to start pushing buttons here. Massad Ayoob in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Massad Ayoob from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, June the 6th, 2022, the, many edition anniversary of D-Day. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morris, and on tonight's show, we'll talk about Democrats saying that 18, 19, and 20-year-olds should not be allowed to buy a rifle.
I'm Amanda Suffolk, and we're going to talk about Ohio leading the way with arming teachers. It really is a new national hot topic.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about a homeowner in Texas who used an AR to stop 2 home invaders. So climb aboard,
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 623 of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, we are back. It has been 4 weeks since I've actually pushed these buttons. I'm amazing myself that I remember where they are. Rob, it's been a long time since we've been on the air together. What's been up with you since the last time we had a chance to catch up, man?
Just in the last few days, I was on Bill Frady's Lock and Load radio program this morning. Last night, I was on Eye on the Target radio with Rob and Amanda. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on the Daily Bullet with you, Paul. Last week, I recorded another episode of Self-Defense Gun Stories. I'm loving my life. Amanda, how about you?
Well, let's start with Concealed Carry Fashion Show made the Daily Mail. And so, so they were slightly rude, which then netted a lot of Pro 2A people going, hey, wait, what? And so they shared it more than if Daily Mail had been quiet. So I'll take that. And so drove back from the NRA, 1,300 miles, and then I slept, and I slept, and I slept. So then I came home, did some training, and while I was at an NRA, I ordered a new handgun, and so now I wait.
All right,
Are
Charlie.
you going to name your new acquisition?
You mean like Hazel, or or what am I? No, it's a
I'm going to
FN.
call them Hazel.
I'm going to call it Hazel. So
What is
it's a FN full size 9mm FN 509L. I think it's an LS Edge.
Isn't that the one they just released?
Mm-hmm. It's pretty sexy. It's got scintillation sights. It's kind of relieved weights. It's pretty neat.
Cool.
Charlie, dude.
I will say that while we were at the FN booth, we did have to wipe the drool from Amanda's face as she was fondling the hardware.
I was like, I think I need this.
Right?
Well,
She needs a moment alone.
I have to, full disclosure, I asked if there was some kind of a media discount. So then the guy had to go over in the corner and look me up. So I was somewhat disappointed that he didn't know who I was. So
I'm sorry.
yeah, there you go.
We're not paddling fast enough.
Obviously not. I'm not a yeah. So there you go. Full price, but it's still coming home with me.
Nice. Well, I drove nearly 3,600 miles with Amanda and her brother Rob as we went to and from NRA, and we are still friends. So this is good news.
Wow.
This is you know, you don't really know someone until you've driven across Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, and into Texas with someone. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Anyway, this past weekend, I actually took a Saber pepper spray instructor course and a UTM Force on Force course with Matt Mallory from the Public Safety and Education and from Meet the Pressers. And Matt and I have a show that we're doing together. He's a really good instructor and really knows his stuff. And I was very much impressed with both of the classes. So that's what's been up with me. Paul and Susan, you guys are back from your hiatus as well.
Well, Susan, I'm gonna let you lead things off because you had a rather momentous NRA annual meeting. We are getting some hardware as well from down there.
We are getting some hardware. I was at the NRA Women's Leadership Forum and won a Car CM9 in one of the auctions. And we're picking that up tomorrow. And then I was with Di Muller and some of the other DCP ladies as we went across the street and did a counter protest to all the other moms' demands and all them other crazies people down there. And I got my motorcycle license.
Wow.
So I'm
Okay.
actually legal to drive now. I don't have to take him with me anymore. I can go by myself.
Yeah. When we got back on Tuesday night, right, sweetheart?
Tuesday night.
All right. We got back Tuesday night, and then Friday morning she had scheduled to take the riding course. She'd already passed the written. It's on computer, but the written part of her motorcycle license. She'd scheduled the driving part for Friday morning. And just like everybody else, I mean, the 2 weeks we were gone, it was a very filled with work trip. And so I spent a lot of time sleeping and getting caught up. But bright and early Friday morning, we were up. And with her learner's permit, I had to be on a motorcycle within visual range of her while she was driving on her learner's permit. But we'd been doing enough practice that I knew she was just fine. So I rode my bike behind her to the driver's license station. I said, good luck, although you don't really need it. I'm going to go back home, take a shower, call me when you're done. We'll meet up and have breakfast somewhere. I was so sure she was going to pass that I didn't even hang around to see if she did pass because I just knew she would walk out of there with the full license.
And she did.
And she did. So,
Yay.
Nice. Congrats.
and the reason that the car CM9 is significant, on our way down to Atlanta, our trip started in South Dakota, and we took kind of an angle shot down to Atlanta. As part of that angle shot, we went through Murfreesboro, Tennessee. For those of you who are into the gun rights community, that may ring a bell. Murfreesboro, Tennessee, as the new home of one Miguel Gonzalez of the Gun Free Zone blog. We met up with Miggy going through there, and I was a little miffed to start with because we were going to meet up at this range, and Miggy and his wife and Susan all said, well, we're at this range, why don't we shoot? And why don't we shoot turned into, Paul, why don't you shoot? Oh, great, because...
And we'll watch you and make fun of you.
And that's exactly what they did.
We'll critique you. That's what it was. Yeah. That's
Once again, that's what friends are for.
And so I'm with my regular carry gun, which is a Gen 1 Smith & Wesson Shield. And I'm putting holes in the target, and I'm no better than I was when Charlie and Amanda see me 1 year ago at the Mag 40. As a matter of fact, my skills may have slipped just a bit since then. And as I have put my rounds down range and I'm starting to pack things up, Miggy is waving at me like, do not leave the range, through the window where the people outside can look in. And okay. In comes Miggy and he's starting to set up. He's don't leave, and he starts shooting a Car CW9 that's got a Crimson Trace laser grip on it. And then he motions me. He says, "I want you to shoot this." And I tell you what, that Car CW9 with a laser grip on it, I was shooting that every bit as well after my stroke than I was shooting my Glock before the stroke. That was what started me saying I have got to get a car with a laser grip. And so that, long story short, that's why when that car came up for auction at the Women's Leadership
Amanda's
Forum.
fault.
Yeah,
It's
that's
Amanda's fault.
so that's why that car was so significant and why I'm so blessed that my sweetheart bid on and won it for me. So
Those of us who have ever shot the gun you were carrying for the trip know that most of the fault of your marksmanship is the crappy trigger of the gun that you had in your pocket. So though I do own a car, though I have one that you've just bought, I'm going to say that it really isn't you. in some cases, it's not the shooter, it is the gun. That would be Gen 1. Bodyguard would be, it is the gun.
It's, yes. So, but anyway.
Rob Morris, have you shot one of those?
Not yet.
The Gen 1 Smith & Wesson Shield?
Yeah, the little shields. Oh, they're
an interesting firearm. Now, I can shoot it well enough that it is my daily carry gun. In the summertime, in the wintertime, my daily carry gun is my Glock Model 23 40 caliber.
It's little.
Because I can hide that. It's a full-size gun, and I can hide that a little better in the wintertime when everybody wears a lot bigger clothes. In the wintertime, it's my shield, but the car comes tomorrow, as does the Crimson Trace laser grip that I ordered, the exact same one that Miggy has, because I had him send me the exact model that he used, and I checked, and it is compatible with the gun Susan got. So I've got the exact same laser grip, and I've got a very comparable gun, and so I'm really hoping I can shoot what is coming tomorrow. Both the grip and holster and laser guard are all showing up tomorrow. I'm hoping that all works out so that I shoot that as well as I shot Miggy's gun. I came as close as I can to duplicating what I had down in my hands down in Tennessee.
In defense of Paul's Smith & Wesson Shield, it is wintertime from August to April in Sioux Falls.
Okay, from late October, early November until late April. Yeah.
Paul, I shot I think a Ruger 1022 with a laser on it, and I thought that was the gun with the flattest or the easiest learning curve I'd have ever seen. It's like, here, put the dot, press the button, next. And I think Tom Gresham said that lasers on guns are great for beginning shooters or anybody who has to transition to a gun and learn it, in a hurry. Is that the sort of gun that if it's almost the gun you'd loan to your neighbor if, oh shoot, the sky is falling, can you loan me something? Is that a good package to put together?
Yes. I had never shot a car before. And I'm not kidding. I was shooting. I have to be very careful about what I'm saying here.
And you're concerned about me.
I was shooting 3-inch groups at 15 yards. And
nice work.
Yeah.
Rob Campbell says that the laser extends the front sight clear to the target.
Yes.
I mean, and so really it's a basic trigonometry thing, and so it really helps close that all in.
The other bit of news I want to share, and we've been really rambling on me for a long time, but I do want to share one more thing. It also has to do with Susan. Back at Christmas time, and I got a YouTube video pulled from us by showing it off. Back at Christmas time, she brought me, I'm not going to show it, but she bought me an FN AR-15. And I actually went out and did some work with that this past Saturday, day before yesterday. And I got to tell you, this is the first time I've really went out and put it through its paces. And I was very much surprised at how accurate I was with that thing. At 12 yards, I'm telling you, it was real small groups. I've got pictures on my phone. It was one ragged hole, and then at 25 yards, again, it was maybe 2-inch groups. That admittedly supported, because I cannot, after my stroke, I cannot freestand like I could before my stroke. But that rifle's a whole lot better than I am, and I'm not horrible.
What was that comment? And Amanda, you can probably cite the source. Only accurate rifles are interesting. Who is that?
So, is that 1 minute of angle thing?
No, it's just that if you're wondering whether it's the gun or you, it's really comforting to know that those mistakes are mine. Now.
Oh, okay, got it. No, I don't know.
I don't know. Kind of runs you down on the excuses department, but At least you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was Colonel Townsend.
Okay.
All right, let's get
Strong as the Google feud with you, Charlie.
I want to get some comments in before we run off to our first break here.
Colonel Townsend Whelan.
Okay.
That's who it was.
Diane over on the Facebook side says, "Hello, Patriots," and she also said, "Rob had a great interview last night on the Eye on the Target radio. You never disappoint."
Yeah, he is good. He's like, when I'm having one of those where I'm like, I need an easy day, I just call Rob because he's like, he's got it. It makes it so easy to be the host on the other side.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Diane.
And there's a reason Rob has been the partner that's been with me the longest on Polite Society, simply because the man is always on point, and he's, if you're wondering who the smartest person in the room is, all you got to do is look at Rob Morse. The guy is brilliant. So,
and plus Paul
much.
doesn't treat Rob like me.
There is that.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to tell you, at the UTM Force on Force class, there were five people in the class. One of them is one of my training buddies. One of them is someone I had on the show. One of them is someone I want to have on the show, and the other person was someone who was actually seeing the show. And so we were coming up with all these scenarios, and they're like, "Can we get Charlie to be like the victim here? Like, can he be the bad guy so we can shoot him?" So I'm like, you know what? I need to come up with a show and call it "Everybody Loves Charlie." Kind of like Everybody Loves Chris Rock. Everybody loves Charlie, and all it is the bashing I take from my friends.
Everybody loves to shoot at Charlie. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to audition for this, Charlie. No.
Like
I'll wear the
shoot
shirt
or take
that says,
shots at. Yeah.
Or
I'll wear the shirt that says, "I'm not Charlie."
Well, now we're going to have to. Of course, we had, while we were down at NRA annual meeting, we had the first season of Charlie's in Charge when we were going out to dinner that night. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go here for dinner. Oh, they're closed. Let's go here. Ooh, that doesn't look safe. Let's go here. Oh, that's closed too. Let's go here. That's not the entrance.
The entire car is armed, and we're like, oh, that's not a good place to go because that doesn't look safe.
Right.
I mean, that's how bad it didn't look safe.
Oh, and Charlie, you can rest easy because, let me get this up. It looks like John Petrolino is here, so you're not going to be getting any hard time from the comments section.
Not at all.
Well, it's great to see John's there. He sent me a picture of him at the boardwalk earlier tonight, and he was standing next to, I assume, a fudge place, but all it said in the back was FUD. So I circled that and sent it back to him.
Wow.
Who's the fud?
Yeah,
Who is
the
the fud?
love is strong with this crew tonight.
Telling you.
Oof.
Oh. And
Good
then
times, good times.
Charlie Chambers, hashtag Charlie is a great brand. FN, built by John Browning in Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And then, of course,
you're
Go
gonna
ahead.
see it, Charlie Chambers, and you're gonna love it. You're gonna have FN envy.
He's gonna have FN envy.
And finally, we're going to get this one, and then we're going to break. George Geller says, wow, Charlie talks so much faster than Rob.
This is why it's called slow facts.
And these are my friends, Charlie.
I love it, man. I love it.
All right, let's go ahead and step off to our first break. Then we're going to get to our news segment. We've been going 20 minutes on what's been going. Of course, we've had a month to catch up on.
Right.
Let's step off to our first break. When we come back, we'll get to our news segment, and we'll do that right after we hear from ACLDN.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by network president Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, we are back, and this is the news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Susan, I think our first story is what's Chris Murphy doing? Susan, I think your microphone is muted.
No, I didn't have it even down and my microphone turned on yet. I'm a little behind schedule. I'm busy. I got a month's worth of mail to catch up on. Okay, here we go. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut, is leading gun control legislation in the Senate. Said a deal on new legislation would not include an assault weapons ban or comprehensive background checks. Murphy told CNN State of the Union co-anchor Jake Tapper that the senators leading the talks met again and negotiations are focused on mental health funding and school safety measures. Quote, there are more Republicans at the table talking about changing our gun laws and mental health, but I've been part of many failed negotiations in the past. End quote. Murphy said the group is also focusing on strengthening background checks and incentivizing states to implement red flag laws, which allow people to petition a court to confiscate firearms.
I saw one quote in the news today that they were talking about, was it 1,000% tax? So 10 times the purchase price of the firearm. Now, given in I'm sure the Ninth Circuit would see nothing wrong with that. I wonder
the Fifth Circuit would disagree, though.
Yeah, they'd say, okay, and what do you think, Paul?
The Fifth Circuit would toss it on its... Yeah.
Toss it on its ear. But would they impose a stay? Or would they say people in the Fifth Circuit don't have to pay it? Interesting.
Then you wait. So this is all interesting. You watch this. Then you watch what just happened in Canada. Then you watch, and so for those of you who haven't caught what happened in Canada, they have, and I don't know when the initial date, the start date is, but they have made it to where you cannot buy a handgun, nor can you transfer a handgun that is already in your possession. So they say that they stop at one generation. That's sort of it. The politicians here in the States say that that is a temporary measure. I sit behind my radio and say, bunk. Mm-hmm. So there is that. So
crock of cheese.
Crock of cheese. So you watch this. You watch what's happening. You watch Murphy out of Connecticut, and he had been even prior to all of the shooting hubbub, that he had been trying to model United States policies after Connecticut's so successful policies. And
right.
So you start to look at all that, and then you look, so that's all on one side is this big stir. And then on the other side is we're waiting for the Bruin versus New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, and whatever that is going to be. And the gist is that they think that Clarence Thomas is writing that decision. So it should be really interesting. Charlie?
Is it a election year for Chris Murphy? Is this why he's backing. I'm going to be careful when I say this. He's not backing off stuff, but is he backing off of this stuff to focus on something else because he wants to get elected or stay elected?
Mm. I don't know,
I'm not sure. But the failed negotiations. Why do we have to negotiate our rights away? The people in New England, particularly Massachusetts and Connecticut, these politicians like to believe that it's a utopia of gun laws up here, and for the 8 states that the NYSERPA would fix or apply to the most are the politicians that want to force their gun laws on free America. They want magazine restrictions and AR bans and
Right.
You take away semi-autos and all this stuff.
Charlie, you just said something interesting. We've got 25 states that will soon have, it hasn't gone into effect yet, constitutional carry, permitless carry. So when some states say, no, we really have to vet people because otherwise the sky is falling, and the Supreme Court says, not in 25 states, it's not. If you don't have a criminal record, carry on, my son. And here you are saying, look, most of us have fairly moderate restrictions on firearms. Before we get the comments about the 23,000 restrictions we have, I'm comparing us to some, New Jersey, and as Charlie says, the Commonwealth. Well, it'll be interesting if they're trying to push national legislation to say, well, what do you mean? Everybody is regulated like this at the Supreme Court to make it the new normal, Charlie.
Yeah, they want the new normal masked and vaxxed is kind of what it comes down to.
It's too little too late right now, because I think that the decision's going to come out before they can ever get the wagons circled.
Yeah, I was up this morning at 8:30 Central Time. Starting at 8 o'clock Central Time, I was watching SCOTUS blog because they do live commentary and live release of what the Supreme Court is doing. So at 8 o'clock this morning until about noon, I was watching the feed through SCOTUS blog, hoping that the Bruen decision, and Charlie and I were talking about this on the Bullet today. Charlie says NYSERPA. That my tongue doesn't say that so well. I call it Bruen because it's easier for my tongue to say that. But I honestly, they've got 33 cases they have to release before they recess. They released 3 of them today, so that means over the next 3 weeks they got to do 30 of them. I'm wondering if they may extend into July a week or two.
Going back to today's episode of The Bullet, which if you haven't checked it out, you should.
Yes, you should.
What did we talk about? The gun law, the gun control utopia of California that had 61.
Yeah.
Gosh, what was I forget what it was?
Yeah.
61 something or other.
Let me go ahead and pull that up because I want to get those numbers right.
Examples of active shooter. The
Yes,
state with
that's
the
it.
largest.
They have arguably the strongest gun control in the nation. Across the nation, there were 61 active. I'm going to call it active killer. That's not the way the FBI says it. There were 61 active killer incidents across the country in 2021, and 12 of them met the definition of a mass killing. California led the nation with 6 of them. This is the state that already has universal background checks, an assault weapons ban, a standard capacity magazine ban, a 10-day waiting period for all gun purchases, a red flag law, gun registration requirements, a ban on college carry, a ban on K-12 teachers being armed on campus, a background check requirement for ammunition purchases, and a limit on the number of guns law-abiding citizens can purchase in a given month, among other regulations. Yeah, that California is always number 1, 2, or 3 in the Brady's list of best states for gun control.
Right.
As
and
a refugee from California, yeah, they're number 1.
Wrong finger.
No, right finger. Yeah, right.
I was counting them down. You had 10 things that the anti-gun folks love and think is going to turn the world into a utopia, and they had 61 active murderer events in 52 weeks.
Paul, was it 6 or 12 that were actually in California?
Of the
6, I think.
Yeah, of the actual active killers, yes.
Yeah,
there were
4 or more persons involved, which is part of that definition.
Right.
Yes.
In the math.
They've got all this stuff, and they still have these things happen there. And you know, the Gavin Newsoms of the world are not wise enough to.
Did you call him nuisance?
The Gavin Newsoms.
I thought you called him.
I think you had it right to start with.
Yeah, Amanda was right the first time. Gavin Newsoms. Gavin Newsoms. But okay, how can that be? And I'm not arguing that those laws had a chance of working. I'm arguing that the media has been wildly malfeasant, because at some point anybody with a shred of integrity would go, wait, state senator out of California, how can you claim that? Because it certainly hasn't worked yet. And you know, at what point is the media going to stand up and recognize that the emperor has no clothes?
They're not. They're going to say, we just need a couple more.
All right.
We're at the tipping point. Just a few more.
Just a few more. It's an addict.
They don't get that if somebody is willing to shoot their mother, to shoot their grandmother in the face, no matter what law you put into place, they are not going to be law-abiding citizens.
You're not going to make gun control more illegal than murder, because if they're going to disobey a murder regulation, then yeah.
It's not even murder of an enemy or a stranger. It's murder of someone in your immediate family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's murder of honestly in the situation in Texas. It's the murder of a woman who probably changed your diapers.
Yeah,
I mean, realistically,
well, same Sandy Hook, same. You know, you start to look at this, and when they start to name them, look at the laws that they broke before they broke the murder law. Look at the first laws that they broke before they got to the mass murder, and then tell us how another law is going to make it any better. That's the problem. I'm actually comforted by the fact that they are talking about mental health in this conversation with the Republicans. The problem that they've got is they're going to get into the sticky wicket of mental health and then personal privacy and HIPAA laws. And we all know that there are mass killers out there that had a counselor that had written a manifesto, that the counselor had seen the manifesto, and the counselors did nothing because they believed that the HIPAA law protected their client privileges. And so that was where that is. So how do you convince them that they are also culpable of the fact that they are working with some evil bastard and are protecting them?
Right.
I want to get a comment up, and then give me just a second here, because this is Lee over on the Facebook site asked, do they typically release on Mondays? If so, I'll have to figure out how to track it. Yes, Lee, the SCOTUS are released on Mondays. I'm going to go ahead and put a screenshot up from my browser. This is scotusblog.us. The blue is when they release the decisions. So you can see on the 13th, the 20th apparently is a holiday, so they're going to release on the 21st and the 27th. They go into conference on Thursdays, but they release decisions on today, and they released 3 today. The 13th, the 21st, and the 27th this month are when they're going to be releasing decisions, and then they recess. So the Supreme Court can do what the Supreme Court wants to do. If they want to stay in session, they can go into July. I don't expect that, but they can. And by the way, if you haven't, go look back and look at this past weekend. We had the weekend edition of The Bullet, and we discussed this at length with Alan Gottlieb. It was a great show. He gave us all kinds of time, and we talked about it at length with Alan, including if New York does what New York looks like it says it's going to do, what court cases might look like with that. So,
is that where everything becomes a gun-free zone, Paul?
Well, yeah, New York, the way it looks, and I don't know if we have this. Do we have this coming up in show notes? New York. So. I lost my show notes for because I got Daily Bullet up here. I don't have.
You weren't looking for information. That's why.
The New York, what the proposed law, top of my head, and again, scrambled brains, so top of my head, what New York is doing is they're going to be making an AR-15. You have to have a permit specifically for an assault weapon, an AR-15. That permit is going to be very expensive. It's going to take an extensive amount of training and thorough background checks, along with a lot of other things. And when I talked...
Where I thought you were going to go was an earlier bill that had been submitted in the New York legislature, where basically, yeah, you can concealed carry in public. You just can't get out of your car.
Yeah, because you can't go to a grocery store, and you can't go on the street, and you can't go to
a gas station or a
can't, right.
Yeah.
That is New Jersey. You can go to the range and from the range, but you can't go anywhere else.
Right.
One of my favorite movies is called After Hours, and this guy ends up meeting this girl, and he wants to call a friend. So he goes to this girl's apartment, and she lets him use the phone. She lets him pick it up and put it down, and he dials 411 to get information for anyone who remembers that, to get his friend's phone number. And then every time he tries to remember the number, he says the number, and she says different numbers. So he's like, she let me use her phone. I could pick it up and put it down, but I couldn't make a call. Like you can carry your gun, you just can't go anywhere.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and what was discussed on, and I hate to be paraphrasing my boss, but I'm going to. What was discussed?
None of us are that smart. We have to.
When we talked with Alan on Saturday, this coming, we all fully expect the decision to go in our favor. It's just how big in our favor is it going to go?
Right.
And Alan fully expects we're going to have to sue New York, New Jersey, California, Hawaii, and other states into compliance after we get this decision, because they're gonna step by step, by itty bitty tiny little incy weensy step, as little as they can, try to get themselves into compliance, but still keep infringing.
Well, okay, Paul, what if they did something arbitrarily small? Okay, you can submit an application, and eventually we'll look at it, and they just sit on them. So they say, no, we're in compliance because we did something, and if you don't like it, sue us. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. SAF is going to need money. That's how.
Yes.
This is how this is playing out.
Absolutely.
But it'll be money
SAF.
well spent.
SAF.org.
All right, let's. We are so late on this segment. Let's, Susan. What's the next one?
A group of 21 House Democrats, led by Republican Abigail Spanberger, Democrat Virginia, is asking leadership to split up a package of 8 gun bills and hold individual votes on each measure, in the hopes of maximizing Republican support for each as they head to the Senate. The 21 Democrats suggested that some of the measures may get support from House Republicans if considered individually, making them better positioned for consideration in the Senate. The Democrats' package includes measures to raise the purchasing age for semi-automatic rifles to 21 years old, outlaw magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, strengthen storage requirements, codify a ban on bump stocks, prohibit straw purchases of firearms, and combat the nasty, untraceable ghost guns.
Rob,
At least
go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry.
At least 2 states are pressing forward with legislation that would allow trained school teachers to carry firearms on public school grounds in the wake of the Robb Elementary School shooting in Uvalde, Texas. While Army teachers have faced...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think that's another story.
Yeah, that's another story. I'm sorry, Susan.
They all kind of blend together here. Okay,
Right.
then go back to the combat untraceable ghost guns.
All right, Rob. Yes. I want to bring Rob. I correct me if I'm wrong, but you're the smartest guy here. Aren't straw purchases already illegal?
Oh, but they're only illegal. They're not extra special, double illegal.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Super mega illegal.
MAGA, not mega. Okay, got that.
Did you see the super mega thing just recently? Yeah. So super mega illegal.
What I did appreciate was someone at the ATF had this much integrity. They may have borrowed it from a friend, and said, "Yeah, anytime a serial number is defaced or damaged, we call that a ghost gun." Well,
yeah.
There you go.
Oof. So that
we've had ghost guns. We've had ghost guns since 1968. Then,
right when we mandated serialization.
Right. So we had it before 1968. We just defined that in 1968 we had non-ghosty guns at the same time.
It's nice to know that they're finally giving us the definition that we've been talking about, that they use this to make it official. This is the whole, what do you tell your friend who's a conspiracy theorist? I'm sorry, you were right.
Well,
don't tell him. Rob Campbell will be like, the more you know.
All right. I got to get this comment up. And we did this on the bullet too. But Charlie Chambers said, 1 year ago today, we were in South Dakota with Masada Ayub for the MAG 40 graduation. Brilliant experience. Amanda, you were there. Charlie was there. And I said at that time, and I'm going to repeat it tonight, I made a social media post about it earlier this week. That was the last class I hosted. And it's still going to be until I get a lot further along in my physical recovery. I don't think I'm going to be hosting again for a while. That class took a lot out of me. I don't know that I'm ready to do it again. I don't know if I will be ready for a while to do it again. But I carry a lot of very special memories from that class, and I want to thank everybody that was involved in that class.
You and Susan, we did have a great time, but you and Susan are two incredible hosts. So thank you for hosting the class and all that you guys did to make that class happen. And this, of course, is also the place, let's say it now, Amanda, this is the place where Amanda beat me by 1 point. However, it was 1 point that was in question, but since Masada Ayub did not take a point away from her, we let it go.
Since Masada Ayub did the math, who am I to question his math skills?
Right. So. But we did walk away behind him being like, did he miss that one? I think he did. And then we scored my target to find out I was 1 point away from you, and that shot would have been an even.
We might have tied.
We might have tied. Not according to Masada Ayub.
And who's going to argue with Masada Ayub? I mean, come on.
That's what I said. Charlie was not believing it, though.
I want to argue with him, but I'll argue with everybody else.
All right, and then. On the YouTube side, Big John 410 said, conspiracy theory is just another name for spoiler alert.
The more you know.
Exactly.
Oh, that's good. I like it. Thank you.
All right. Susan, let's talk about school teachers and Ohio.
At least 2 states are pressing forward with legislation that would allow trained school teachers to carry firearms on public school grounds in the wake of the Robb Elementary School shooting in Uvalde, Texas. While arming teachers has faced widespread hostility from gun control organizations and national teachers unions, allowing teachers to carry firearms in schools was among the recommendations made by several school safety commissions formed in the aftermath of school shootings in 2018. Programs to arm teachers had mixed results in the past due to varying levels of participation. A 2020 report from the RAND Corporation found that 28 states already permit armed teachers under certain circumstances, while others, including Texas and Florida, have passed laws specifically encouraging the practice. Now, in the aftermath of Uvalde, the policy has received renewed attention in state capitals as lawmakers look to enact new measures to harden security at schools. The bill will add Ohio to a list of several states that already allow teachers to be armed. In Louisiana,
pause right there. Pause, just pause, because the rest of this just keeps. Yes. So here's the deal. We're sitting here looking at Ohio passing House Bill 99, and it's like, oh my goodness, they're going to allow teachers to be armed in Ohio. Teachers have been armed in Ohio since 2012, and because of that, they were sued by a family through a school up through and got to an activist Supreme Court justice, Ohio Supreme Court justice, who said that in order for a teacher to carry in the state of Ohio, that they had to take the full police course to the full 700 hours to be a police officer. And so Ohio rewrote their legislation to make that not the case. So there was a pause in teachers carrying for 1 year. So it was July of last year to June of this year before they gave it back. The news is losing their mind about Ohio teachers, and it's like, well, you didn't know about the 10 years before the pause? So, right, there wasn't really an issue, but now they're trying to make it an issue.
Blood will flow through the halls of the school systems.
Well, this is a funny backstory. I have a friend who is a cameraman for one of the TV stations in Cleveland. And so I had called him for some other advice, and in talking to him, he's like, you're going to love this. The story that we're doing today is about arming school teachers. And he and a reporter were going to interview. And I said, oh, so you're going to talk to the FASTER folks and you're going to talk to the school teachers? And he's like, no, we're interviewing the teachers union. I said, well, did you know about this, FASTER? Did you know about this, that they'd been armed for 10 years? Did you know about this, that there was a pause and a hiatus? Did you know about this? And he's like, no. He's like, let me talk to the reporter. I'll get back to you. So the reporter did the one story, and then the next day interviewed Jim Irvine and some school teachers and did the other half of the story, all just because of timing of a conversation and the fact that last year I had been in FASTER, and so I could direct him, and so I texted him some phone numbers, and he did the story.
Awesome.
That's great.
Guys, and you understand this political maneuver. We wouldn't want anybody to go armed in school. We think that they have to be able to stop a bullet and wear funny blue underwear and have an S on their chest. Only then would they be good enough for our students. And what that does is mean that more time will pass before the murderer is opposed.
Mm-hmm.
The politician who says, well, unless we have the perfect defender, we might have an accident. And you go, you could afford a lot of accidents before they would be as bad as leaving children unarmed.
For an hour.
Yes.
Like we just saw in Uvalde, which is ugly math, and people don't want to hear it. And the politicians get away with it. This is a real example where perfect is lethal and good enough is perfect. Just one. What, Amanda? What was that class? 27 hours, 3 days? that you took?
Yeah, it's 3 days. And so it's a Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. So
Okay.
the interesting part was one of the arguments here in Ohio was, well, what if one of the armed teachers goes rogue with their gun and starts shooting people up?
Yeah,
What if they go rogue without another armed teacher in the school? Right? I mean,
what's to stop that right now? What's to stop a teacher in California from, because you can still buy firearms in California, right, Rob?
Well, it would be illegal for them to do it, to carry the gun on. And did you know that if they're going to commit murder, a piece of paper will stop them, Paul?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and the thing is the second armed teacher or the lunch lady or the principal or the janitor or the guy who's sweeping the floors or, that's who's going to stop the rogue shooter.
Yep.
It's not just, if we have this perfect world where nothing bad can happen inside these hollowed halls. And we're seeing that that's not the case. Evil exists, and we have to be prepared to defend against evil.
Yes.
So this is one of my things, having been a guy that's been in public and private schools for the last years.
Not to give away how incredibly old you are, Charlie.
I love my friends. I really do. Teachers have to pass background checks every year. So the teacher that carried a gun legally, that may or may not have had training, but was carrying legally in one of these 28 states where teachers can carry, if they decide to go rogue, guess what? They've already passed a background check. And I always tell folks, if you think your teacher is going to shoot kids for not coming in for recess and shoot up in the air to get the kids quiet, I tell them that they probably are not smart enough to own a gun, because that is not what guns are for. Guns are not for corralling students to get them to come inside for recess, or because they forgot their instrument on band day. If there's anyone that's ever wanted something like that, it might be the band teacher. But and I say that in jest. Teachers pass background checks. They're people. They care for their students. I'm not saying they don't care for their students. They care for their students. They'll do. It's like Meatloaf. They'll do anything they would for their students, except carry a gun.
Charlie, when you started teaching in the 1950s, I don't think the background check requirement was there yet, was it?
Well, it was the 1900s. But, yes, I think they still did background checks. I'm pretty sure back in 93, 94, I think was when I started teaching. No, 94, 95 maybe. I think they did background checks. Yeah.
All right, I want to get two more comments in. I think because we usually do 15-minute news segments. Guess what? We're almost 45 minutes into this news segment. So
how come he's going to say we're overtime again?
Yeah, we're guess what? We're overtime.
I'm
anyway,
not raised this year. Well.
George says if we had enough barbershops, the teachers would not need to worry so much about arming themselves.
That is such a good line.
George. Now explain it to the folks that don't get the joke. Come on.
Yeah, well,
I have to say, the other day somebody said something about schools and barbershops, and I didn't get it. And then, thank you, George. Sometimes I'm dense, but now I got it.
The Border Patrol agent that ultimately stopped the shooting in Uvalde, Texas, did it with a shotgun that was borrowed from a barber shop he was in when he got a phone call from his wife, who was a teacher in the school. And he was in the barber shop. He wasn't armed at that exact time, but he borrowed a shotgun from the guy that owned the barber shop, a 12 gauge, went in and with a group of other federal, other Border Patrol, and the guys that were ignoring the local commander on scene that said, do not enter, do not, stand back, fall back, stand back. These guys said, to hell with it, we're going to go do something after the local commander waited 45 minutes and did nothing. These guys on their own said, we're doing it, and we're doing it now. That's what stopped it.
And he had half a haircut.
Yep. And a borrowed 12 gauge.
The two things it reminds me of. One is the scene from Gran Torino, when Clint Eastwood takes the young Hmong boy in to get a haircut, and he's like, "Hey, this is how men talk to each other." And then Clint like dressed down the barber because he knew him, and the barber gave it right back to him. And Clint's like, "Hey, this is how men talk to each other." And he told the young boy to go outside and come in and do the same thing. And the boy did, and the barber pulled a shotgun out on him. And then Clint's point was, listen, you don't talk to that way someone the first time you meet them, you know.
You have to. After a while, you can treat them like I treat Charlie Cook.
Right, you can treat them like Charlie eventually,
but it may take years. Yeah.
Right. It also reminds me of the North Hollywood shootout where the police were undergunned, and they went to local gun stores and said, "Hey, we need some of your guns to shoot these bank robbers." Totally reminds me of that as well, where they're like, "Hey, listen, we're not going to do anything. You know, we're not doing anything, or we're not doing enough. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt there." And then they had to go get a firearm from other places.
You know what, though, Charlie? That was in the late 1990s. I don't think the police could do that anymore in North Hollywood.
Probably not. I was listening to Gun Owners Radio, and they had somebody on from Beverly Hills Guns, which is the only gun store in Beverly Hills, and I think their lease couldn't get renewed for their building or something like this, so there might not be any gun stores in the Hollywood area. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, and the second part is the guy behind the gun counter would be like, 10-day waiting period.
10-day waiting period. Yes, we got to fill out your 4473s.
All right. Well, we do have one more story, but I think we're going to go ahead and we are so late. I think we're going to let that one slip aside, and we're going to take our break here. We're going to come back on the other side. We've got a couple of DGUs to talk about, and we'll get to that right after we hear from CNJFO.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
Welcome back to the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The Defensive Gun Use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliation. Susan, let's go to Brownsboro, Texas.
It was mid-morning when a homeowner in Brownsboro, Texas, heard the sounds of breaking glass coming from inside his home. The homeowner grabbed his AR rifle and went to see what was happening. The homeowner saw two strangers in the middle of his house. The defender told the intruders not to move. The second intruder, a female accomplice, ran away. The defender let her go and called 911. Police arrested the male intruder. The homeowner pointed out to the broken glass near his front door. Police took the intruder to jail and searched the neighborhood for the second robber. The defender was not charged with a crime.
I want to point out a couple very, very good things with this one. When the defender stopped the two intruders in the house, the female ran away. What did the defender do? He let her go. I love that. 911, they'll find her, they won't. Chances are she's never coming back to your house again anyway. When the threat stops, you stop shooting. In this case, the guy never had to start shooting. And that is the other thing I wanted to point out. This is the perfect DGU, one in which shots never had to be fired to begin with. Just the presence of the firearm was enough to stop it.
That's the vast majority of DGUs. Unfortunately, they're not always reported because there were no shots fired. But
yeah.
Since the summer of the spring, I guess, of 2020, I've been telling people that AR stands for anti-riot.
Okay.
When there's a riot, you bring out an AR. The riot disappears.
If you're looking for a gun to defend your house, I don't know that of my stack of guns that my AR would be the go-to. It really wouldn't. It would be my shotgun. So it always amazes me when you're reading this to say, what else? What are you thinking? If that was the gun that you left as your home defense gun, how far are your neighbors? Do you live in a condo? Where are the walls? All of those kinds of things just roll in my head.
Depending on where I am when the stuff hits the fan, the very first thing is probably going to be on my hip, and that's the handgun. Second one, if I have my choice, and you never do, but the first one would be my shotgun. The second one would be the AR that does not have the scope on it. Next would be the AR that does have the scope on it. After that would be probably going back to one of the other handguns. But if I have to go through a handgun, a shotgun, and 2 ARs, boy, that's some serious stuff that's been happening.
You need some more friends.
Yeah,
Go
ahead. I'm sorry, Charlie.
It goes right to what's on Rob's shirt, right? Is that your pogo shirt?
Yep.
There we are. Pants on, gun on. There we go.
And Amanda, you said something that's brilliant. What gun is appropriate for the situation? And I remember at DGU just a month or so ago, the bullets, and it wasn't clear whether it was that some of the bullets missed the intruder that was in his hallway or went through the intruder and then through a couple of sheetrock walls into his neighbor's house. Yeah, that's an issue, and there aren't great answers sometimes.
No, sometimes you really got to think about it. Having a gun shop, we had a guy who had been held hostage in his 3rd floor apartment in a 6-story building. And so he came for lessons, and he wanted an AK-47. We talked him into a shotgun because we figured that his neighbors on floors 1,
Right.
2, 4, 5, and 6 would appreciate, a little bit of restraint, if you will. But
Yeah.
I think that that's one of those things where it's like look for the job, the firearm that's for the job, and what is it doing? So the gun that's on your hip is defending you and your loved one. The gun that is someplace else within your house is defending the house. So it looks at the house, and then it looks at the neighbors, and it looks at the neighborhood, and it picks for that kind of thing. And then if it all goes south, then all bets are off, and it's whatever you can grab. But when you're making your plan when it's not an emergency, so that in an emergency you know what the plan is.
Yep.
No, you guys, Charlie and Amanda, you've instructed more students than I have. I had a student who said, but I carried this AR for a decade. It's the gun I know in my sleep. I am so familiar with it. Yeah, I can shoot these other things, but I can do this in my sleep. And I went, okay, it's hard to argue with the gun you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that have a weight too?
Well, the old saying is, beware of a man with only one gun. He probably knows how to use it.
Right. No,
Amanda,
there is
you had
that.
a different thought.
No, I you can't argue that. I mean, I've had students come in and say, I've carried a 1911 forever, and I'm saying, I don't think that that's a great concealed carry gun. But I'm not going to convince them because that's the one that they've really trained with. It's just, hopefully you can look at them to say over penetration is potentially an issue. So is there another gun that works just like that gun that, the ARs are now so modular. Is there something else that does not have that over penetration that still works in exactly the same way, so you don't have to think about it? That would be the direction I would try to guide them.
I got 2 comments I've got to get up because they are directly related to what we have been talking about, and they're great comments.
So they're not from Miggy, I take it.
George Geller actually is the first one. During the North Hollywood shootout, the LAPD got the AR-15 rifles from B&B Guns. Last time I went to B&B, they had mostly paintball guns. That was about the year 2000. And then Big John 410 says, I use the 223 ammo the police use in their patrol rifle.
And that makes sense too. That is a great argument, because if it's good enough for the police, it's good enough for you. You still just have to look at over penetration. And
you do.
Your long gun needs to be second in line sometimes then, if that's the case.
I would encourage people to go on a YouTube search. I have seen videos, because I like everybody else, I've heard about over-penetration in 223. I seen a video, I forget who put it together, but when they tested hollow point 223 ammo against drywall, it went through a standard construction drywall, a test, it went through 1. Not 5, 6, whatever. It went through 1 drywall, and about 3 to 4 inches behind that was another drywall. They found the round in between the first and second layer of drywall. So I'm not saying that hollow point 223 is the be-all, end-all. I'm just saying do your own research and maybe even build a mock-up and test your own ammo out of your own firearm.
First, I like that Big John 410 here is calling it a patrol rifle.
Yes.
I dig that, right? Because that is what the police have, patrol rifles. I don't know if you guys, if you don't get the emails from AmmoLand, you should, because you're missing Rob's articles and the videos that I'm making for AmmoLand, and Petrolino's articles and a bunch of other articles. But there was something that came up in the AmmoLand email within the last week and a half, which was an AR style shotgun. So that if that's the platform you're comfortable with, then you can possibly find a shotgun that looks like and feels like an AR.
You know what? I fired before an AK shotgun. It was my words aren't going to come, but I fired an AK shotgun before in 12 gauge. And besides the fact that it dislocated my shoulder, it was a very effective weapon.
That modular design is very flexible.
It's good for the victim and for the user.
First shot dislocates your shoulder, you readjust, second shot puts it back in place.
Back in. Yeah.
There you go.
We'll be here all week.
Susan, let's talk about our second DGU, should we?
A woman with her concealed carry permit was attending a graduation/birthday party at an apartment complex in Charleston, West Virginia. The party had spilled out into the parking lot with about 40 people at the celebration. At about 10 o'clock at night, a man drove through the parking lot and people shouted for him to slow down. This driver took offense and came back about a half an hour later. He climbed into the back seat of his car and started shooting at the crowd with his AR rifle. That's when our armed defender shot back several times. She stopped the attacker. No one else was injured. She called 911 and remained at the scene. Emergency medical services declared the attacker dead at the scene from multiple gunshot wounds. The attacker was a convicted felon with a long criminal record. The police are investigating where he got his firearm.
There's a shock, a criminal that uses a firearm. But, that shouldn't be happening, because isn't it illegal for felons, especially those with long histories, to have firearms?
I'm pretty sure it's illegal, Paul. Yeah.
Right up there with illegal of shooting at people because they yelled at him.
Yeah. I want to... Rob and Amanda discussed this one yesterday. And by the way, if you didn't catch it, it's on. If you're watching this live, you can just go back and get the show from yesterday. Go watch Eye on the Target Radio. The bottom of the first hour is when Rob and Amanda were talking. They did talk about this story. They had a great conversation, but if you missed it and you don't want to go back right now and watch it, it was brought up during Amanda's show that, this is a pool party, and this lady didn't get dressed up in her two-piece little almost there bikini. She was dressed in street clothes, did not get wet, did not go jump in the pool, and had her carry firearm on with her. Good on her, pants on, gun on, like Rob's shirt said, and stayed sober, which is, again, awesome. If you're going to be if you're going to carry, stay sober, and staying dry helps too. So,
Paul, there are a lot of new gun owners.
Yeah.
And some of them might not know that they should stay sober yet, because in many states now you don't have to take that class. I'm not intoxicated and I can drive. Well, yeah, but if you actually use your gun, you're going to be examined. They will know your blood alcohol content, and you might face a civil suit. So, hang on. Well, Paul, isn't being a gun owner a little bit like being a commercial driver? You can be absolutely right, and you're still going to get examined.
The lawyer's going to look. Yeah, the lawyer's going to look for anything and everything they can do to come after you. Absolutely. CDL, if you're in a big truck and you're controlling that big truck, because every big truck has at least by law $1 million liability policy on it. Boy, if you're in a big truck and you so much as put a scratch on another vehicle, there's going to be an attorney just salivating looking to come after that case, because they want a part of that insurance money.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
The one thing I want to bring up about this is, we're so grateful that that woman was there. We're so grateful that that woman was armed. We're so grateful that that woman took action and defended everybody else at the party. But now you look at it, in one, she's famous. Everybody in her neighborhood knows who she is. She's not going to be able to order a pizza. She's not going to be able to go to the Taco Bell. She's not going to be able to go to the drugstore without somebody knowing this stuff about her. And the other part that goes into this is when I see this and I hear this, my heart goes out to this person, because they stood strong for everybody. And now they are going to go mentally through the toughest period that they have ever had to face, because they were forced to take someone's life. And it wasn't because they picked the fight. It wasn't because they wanted to. It was because they were the last man standing, and they were that line. And And I think we have to appreciate that. And should we know somebody that is forced to be in this position, is offer them a listening ear, offer them some help, and not judge and not want the details, but just, hey, dude, I'm here because this has got to be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about on this one?
Go ahead, Rob. You were like,
yeah, you were starting something.
I was talking to
We
Jake
saw a thought
Wiskerson.
coming.
Yeah, it's because I only had 3 this year. I spoke to Jake Wiskerson from Walk the Talk America, and he goes, "We're trying to tell gun owners that you can get help, and it's okay." And isn't that interesting? Lots of other people have fantasies about what would happen if we had a gun, and we sort of have, I'll call them fantasies about what might happen to us if we seek mental health counseling. Talk to the pros. Replace the fantasies with reality and get some help.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to step off to our last break. We'll come down. We'll talk about what we are doing with our media, and we'll shut the show down right after we hear from JPFO.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. JPFO.org.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Rob, it's been, about 4 weeks since we recorded one of these. You have to have written some stuff at Slowfax you want to talk about, dude.
Let's just talk about the last thing I wrote, because I'm responding to a brilliant slide prepared by Ed Monk. We talked about school safety. Ed was in the military, and when somebody said, if we do this, how many people will die? And Ed's job was to give them a number. Not, but to say, this is my best estimate. And if you change it in this way, the number of dead go up or down. The trade between blood, treasure, and time. So he understands violence. And he said, there's some questions we're not asking our school administrators. We need to ask them. Who is ultimately responsible for the safety of staff and students in this school or school district? Believe me, if somebody's doing their job, they feel the weight of doing it. They know exactly who's responsible. And if the superintendent doesn't immediately put his hand up and say, yeah, that's me, then we have big problems in our schools. Ed said to ask, how soon after the first shot does your school's plan stop an active shooter? And if somebody says something about 911 and SWAT, they're going to have a 30 to 50 casualty count, and you need to get that person out of those jobs. I took Ed's questions, I expanded them because he's so terse. I thought a lot of people didn't even understand what the question meant. That article's called Explaining the Tough Questions About School Safety. It's at slowfax.wordpress.com. John's not here. Amanda, Charlie, which one of you wants to go first? Amanda.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I am actively recording Women for Gun Rights and putting those shows out and doing the Eye on the Target radio show. A couple weeks ago, I was in Atlanta and I allowed Rob to have free reign, Rob Campbell to have free reign of the show. So the wheels didn't fall off the bus. So I'm comfortable enough that in a couple weeks I'm going to do it again.
Okay. So what's coming up this week for Women and Gun Rights on Friday?
This week I am actually recording 2 shows midweek to decide what's running on Friday. So I have Incognito Wear, a concealed carry clothing line, and Natalie Widener. So one of them's going in the can, one of them will be Friday night, but I don't know yet.
Natalie Widener, and I'm very, very impressed with that young lady. We met up with her again. I first met her at 1 year ago at the Masada U group, Mag 40 that I hosted. We ran into her again at the Mingle, and I run into her from time to time at our local range that Susan and I go to. She's one of the RSOs there. That young lady continually impresses me. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that one, whether it comes out this week or sometime in the future.
It sounds as if the future is in good hands when we have folks like Natalie taking the charge on Second Amendment issues.
Folks, if you are considering taking training, leave age out of it. This young lady is fantastic, and I would, if she were to host training herself, I would seriously consider it. And Susan, if you're still on headset, although her part of the show is done, I'm hoping, Susan, will you agree with me that you would take training from her as well?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, she is on the ball. She's got it going on. She's going to be a big star in the Second Amendment world. And as far as Incognito Wear, they had some really incredible stuff at the Concealed Carry Fashion Show.
Yep.
So, Charlie, dude, riding shotgun with Charlie, what's coming up there? And do you have any gungrams coming out?
Great questions. I want to say before we go to my stuff, Amanda, it's nice to know that when you're on the road, your brother Rob really, it sounds like he's scared straight. Like he's got everything planned out. He's articulate. Okay, maybe he misses the brakes coming in and out of the brakes, but he
pays attention for the whole 2 hours.
He does, and it's shocking to see.
The funny part, the truly funny part, was he's texting me on the commercial breaks, and he's like, "Hey, man, this is harder than it looks. Like, cut me some slack." And I'm like, "Dude,
where have you been for the last 10 years?"
Bingo.
Oh my goodness! All right, so what I have coming up is last week the issue number 2 of Armed Lifestyle magazine came out, and you can find that for free if you just Google Armed Lifestyle magazine. There are a lot of articles that are in this. People like Amy Lucas, and I know John Petrolino's got an article. I'm not sure if Matt Mallory does, but there's a lot of great contributors, and I am one of them. I have an article column called "Writing Shotgun with Charlie," and I revisit some old. Yeah, you like them. Check it out. "Writing Shotgun with Charlie," and I replaced the shotgun with a quill on that logo. But my column features Anthony Calandro, and we talk about tactical pens in that. And I'm actually going to take. I re-interviewed Anthony, and I got about 18 minutes of audio that I'm going to be probably putting out tomorrow on the Writing Shotgun YouTube channel and podcast outlets. So I've got that going on. I've also been making short videos for AmmoLand News, which you can find on the AmmoLand News YouTube channel as well. So I'm keeping myself busy along with the Writing Shotguns and working on another little video project as well. So I'm I'm just keeping up. That's all I'm trying to do.
Trying to keep up. I get that. After the last 2 weeks, I definitely get that.
How about yourself?
Well, I want to tee off and promote again this past Saturday's weekend edition of The Bullet. We had Alan Gottlieb on, and he was the special guest on Saturdays. They're usually there for 15 to 20 minutes. Alan stayed on with us for almost 40 minutes talking about what's in the court system, especially the Bruen case, what's coming up, what the SAF is doing right now, and a little bit of the history of the SAF. It was absolutely some of the best stuff I've put out in 10 years of doing Polite Society, and now the last year and a half of doing stuff for the SAF. Some of the best stuff I've done is right there in that broadcast. So please, if you haven't caught it, go back and catch that edition of the Bullet. This week, I'm going to be continuing to do the Bullet, 5 p.m. Central Time every day, and there will be a Saturday broadcast at noon. That's about all I can promote for myself for right now. So, think here. Yeah, the only thing left is to promote our Facebook listeners group. That's if you're a member of Facebook, go ahead and look it up at Facebook and just search for Polite Society Podcast Listeners. I don't post it myself very often. I do look there quite often. I comment every once in a while, but there are a lot of listeners in there, and topics that get commented on or that get brought up in the show are brought up in there very often. So if we happen to take a 3-week hiatus because I happen to be doing a lot of traveling, you're still going to get your news in that group. Anything else? I think we're covered. So that's going to wrap up another episode of this Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. So for Amy, Dana, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, and Rob.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
Okay, we are clear of recording. We're still live on OpsLens, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm going to go ahead. There's not going to be a post show today, guys. We went we're out on time, but this one took a toll on me. As you can tell, I'm glaring the hell out of the camera with my bald forehead. So we're just going to go ahead and shut this down. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for coming back and keeping the show alive. And we will see you next week.